as dealership operators, dealership people, there are really only three things that we want to need: sell more cars, make more money, and create more loyal lifetime customers. Like, that's really it. One trade gets me, depending on the price segment and the market segment and the type of inventory, anywhere from 2 to 6 additional highly profitable deals that are the long tail of that one trade. Find the deal in every deal. Number one place where you can drive down consumer acquisition cost for variable ops, for selling cars. Number one place where you can acquire really awesome vehicles, trades. It's a gold mine that dealers, even the ones that think they have service drive processes, is your service advisor making sure that they have a Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer at their point of sale. Have you ever done kind of a top 10, bottom 10% exercise in your organization to look at like your best operating, most profitable stores and your poorest operating stores and looked at their cost per lead? Whose cost per lead is always lower? The poorest operator. Because the two ways to drive down your cost per lead are have crappy leads or do a really poor job working them. And if the content isn't relevant, if you're not keeping them attached to you, and it takes you 25 leads to sell the same car that the sister store down the street can sell with 5 or 6 leads, of course your cost per lead is going to be lower. And
welcome to the Shift into Profit podcast, where leaders come to evolve, teams come to improve, and dealerships come to grow. Every episode delivers the insights you need to transform your people and maximize your performance. Let's shift your store into a new level of profit.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It's Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode where I get to talk to, well, anybody and everybody I want to talk to when it comes to the processes, the people, and the technology that we need to create more profitable dealerships. And I have an amazing guest with me today. I am so excited to get into some really great content. But hey, we can't make great content like this without our sponsors. And here's a quick message from our sponsor.
For years, I've been saying that we have a process problem in our industry. We all talk about the road to the sale or the service write-up process or F&I menu process, but very few dealerships actually know how well their teams are following those steps. A process is only as good as how well we can measure it. Think about it. As an industry, we spend massive amounts of money and time getting customers to walk into our showroom or service drive and shake our hand. But the only thing we have to determine whether we did a good job is a checklist. Did we greet them? Did we qualify? Did we present? Did we touch desk? This is not measurement. This is guesswork. And the team at Xero agrees with me. That is why Xero created a way to record and analyze every in-person sales, service, and F&I conversation and report back to management exactly how each team member is performing against your process, not Xero process, your process. The system is fully customized to your store, your expectations, and your steps to the sale or service. Every conversation is mapped. Every step is measured. And that is only the beginning. Xero also provides real-time feedback and coaching notes that help your people get better with every customer they speak to. That is not just another cool tool. That is a way to moneyball your business. You're finally able to measure every at-bat so you can process your way to profitability. To learn more, visit Xero, Xiro.ai, and make sure to ask them for the Strategy with Jason discount. Now back to the show.
All right, guys. I have the one, the only, the oh so famous. Did I do that okay? Is that all right?
You did great.
I have Jade with me from Cox Automotive. How are you doing, Jade?
I'm doing great, Jason.
I'm so glad we got a chance to
I
connect.
was to say, I'm just so glad that you want to talk to me, since you can talk to whoever you want to talk to.
Because we love this industry. We have such a big passion for it. We love seeing people get into it. We love to see them become better owners, better managers, better sales and service people. Like it's just, we were talking about this before we started recording. It is a people business.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of that come back. Like when I started in the industry, I got a lot of training. I got a lot of coaching. There was significant investment into me as an individual from the first dealership I worked at. I hate to say that's fallen off a little bit. Look, guys, I already know I'm going to get into, sorry. You know me. I love finding a rabbit hole and getting into it. But Jade, I'm so excited that you had a chance to come jam with me today. I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story, because I'm just fundamentally fascinated, and you have a fun origin story. So for everybody out there watching and listening that maybe just don't know a little bit about you and what you're currently doing or how you got into the industry, let's start there. How did you get into this crazy little world called the automotive industry?
Well, so I'll be short-winded for once. That's unusual for me, as you all know. But we have so much cool stuff that we want to talk about today. But grew up automotive, family is automotive. So the really short of it is if I wanted to eat or have shoes, I had to negotiate for it. Car business, once it's in you and in your blood, it is everything. And of course, after college, I wanted to get as far away from car business as I could, as most of us do that grow up in it for a while. And then you just can't. It's such an incredible business. And before I came to Cox Automotive, been with Cox for a little over 10 years now. How the past decade has flown. But the dealership group that I was operations director for at that time, we had, as you know, we had Hyundai, Honda, Ford, Volvo, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Nissan franchises. I had GMs right out of NADA, Dealer Academy, all the way to the 75-year-old Ford truck guy that all you need to do is advertise in the Trading Post and everything was going to be okay.
Yes.
And all those traditional means that had always worked. And it was such a transformational time for the industry. We're in another one right now, and change is the only constant. We've talked about that before when we've been together. But I felt like I could do more to protect the small and mid-size groups from the Cox Automotive side, where we could really put together technology and data and create products that allowed them to play on an even playing field with all of the big publics. Not there anything wrong with them. I love them all. I've spent years with them building and driving their strategies, the new form and hybrid retailers out there. But this is a people business. And I'm so glad that you started with this. And the love of people, the love of each other, like this, it's just an awesome industry. And
well, I mean, think about even from the consumer side. I mean, look, this is one of the largest purchases that anybody's out there. I got to think a little bit about this because my daughter's now 15. So this is the year that she's going to go take her driver's ed. And then shortly after that, it's going to be like, okay, Dad, got to get a car.
And Dad has to go on blood pressure medication.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe somebody out there could help me with that. No, I'm going to get a lot of DMs, I guarantee it. But no, so I'm like, this is a big thing for her. Like this is going to be one of those really big moments, and she's going to have a handful of these. And it's just like the people just make that such a big difference. It can make and break that entire experience. But I think it's the process that sits behind those people, right? That ultimately is that juice. It's that the fuel that drives a good dealership's engine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely do. I have spoken a couple times today on AI and technology and all the products. Of course, the buzzword, you can't go to a conference and not talk about AI and CDPs. But when it comes right down to it, even those tools, and you're doing this with your business, you're looking at these people first technologies and companies that you have to have the underlying data and capabilities, but it's all about making your marketing smarter, but ultimately making your operations stronger and your people happier and more efficient at what they do so that they can do more with the same, not necessarily more with less, because we love talking about market share. I know you're going to, that is my favorite word. But the way you gain market share is by making people really happy, and making your customers really happy starts with making your staff really happy. You've got to bring them along with 100%. You with all of this change that is ahead of us. So it is the love of people and the love of the business that got me here and keeps me here.
Well, I mean, and I'm glad you brought up the market share because that's where I want to go. Look, we can't optimize our people and our processes without having some form of just like, what's our baseline here, right? And, we're going to get into a little bit of ROI and guys, I've done podcasts and attribution models and stuff like that. And there's just too much, I think, for the average dealer out there to really look at and like, what do I really, really look at that's going to help me build a people and process around, and what ROI is. I mean, yes, money is key, but I mean, what key or KPIs should I really be paying attention to that will help me understand that the people and process I've put in place are actually doing the right thing? So let's get into it. ROI, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. So first, just to reiterate what you said, time is money and money is money.
Yes.
And we as dealership operators, dealership people, there are really only three things that we want to need: sell more cars, make more money, and create more loyal lifetime customers. Like that's really it. And you said it. We have gotten so fancy over the last 10 years in the ways, and there are some really important technologies that exist for companies that are ready and looking for full end-to-end consumer journey tracking, identity resolved, household algorithms that can tell us exactly everything. But the truth is, we are trying to sell more cars, make more money, create more loyal lifetime customers. And ultimately, there are two metrics that matter in my mind, but the most important one is market share. We heard a lot post-pandemic, companies that were looking at getting into e-commerce and digital retailing. It's like, oh, we don't have incrementality. We were going to have incrementality. Well, you can't have incrementality when you have 40% less inventory than you had a year ago. There's some really simple math that sits at the heart of where our dealerships need to have the finger on the pulse of their business to really understand if what they are doing is working or not. Because you're either winning or losing. And
and you have to be able to stress test it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I got to stress test my marketing. I got to stress test my data strategy. I got to stress test my process, and I got to stress test my people, and everything has to be pushed against something.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I grew up into this business, market share was everything. It was the North Star. And at some point in time, and maybe it was the pandemic that did it, but we kind of lost sight of that a little bit. And to your point, for the last decade, it's been impressions and CPM, CPLs, CPCs, whatever other three-letter acronym I can come up with to be like, it's like, no, we should be focusing on the engagement, not the results, but the results need to be the North Star.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can do incredible marketing. You can have incredible conversion. And marketers, people have laughed at me the last 10 years when I've said, if you think about cost per VDP or cost per lead, we can flip a switch as a marketer. I can drive 10,000 or 100,000 VDPs on any unit out there,
of course,
any day of the week that I want to. A light bulb goes off when I say, have you ever done kind of a top 10, bottom 10% exercise in your organization to look at like your best operating, most profitable stores and your poorest operating stores and looked at their cost per lead? Whose cost per lead is always lower? The poorest operator. Because the two ways to drive down your cost per lead are have crappy leads or do a really poor job working them. You can get all the leads in the world, but if you
said this,
yeah,
can you repeat one more time? Just you guys, this is important.
If you don't follow up right, if the content isn't relevant, if you're not keeping them attached to you, and it takes you 25 leads to sell the same car that the sister store down the street can sell with 5 or 6 leads, of course your cost per lead is going to be lower. And you know what? If you need that many leads to sell a car, it's probably going to sit on your lot for 45 days instead of 12. You know how many more VDPs you get in 45 days than 12? So who has the lower cost per VDP? The one who's the vehicle's sitting on the lot for 45 days. And so like these are really basic common sense things. But as an industry, we have kind of grasped onto what I think are metrics that work in far less complicated, far less hairy retail verticals. In the car business, we know no two deals are ever the same.
No.
80% of the deals have hair on them.
Soap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're not selling a Whirlpool washer and dryer. Everyone is different. There is not a distinct apples to apples competitive set, not even with new cars now, the complexity of trim packages and
and just the audiences that are buying
oh my
them,
goodness,
right? I mean,
that's
like,
right.
You could have
Incentives
16
by
different types of
market.
audiences buying.
You bet. And so I just keep coming back to the very basics of market share and return on investment overall.
Yes.
Overall, look at that big picture and recognize that still, even in 2025, such a small fraction of consumers are doing the trackable things in a really consistent way, like
Thank you
leads.
for saying that.
Such different behavior
All over
depending
the
on
place.
the age segment, the market, the demographic, the psychographic of the consumer. We've been trying to find things you can sink your teeth into as a dealership or group operator, and they've just been really misleading things, and we're losing market share as a result. And if you were losing market share, you were decision making with a really big blind spot, most likely, because you're measuring those CPs that have really nothing to do with anything about selling cars and being profitable on a per unit basis.
I'm going to, when I first started in the business and my dealership got their first dealer.com website, right? The report was not called leads. I've tried to figure this out. I've talked to a handful of people because I fundamentally was fascinated at what point in time did the language change? Because the report I got was form fills and inquiries. That was the report. So those aren't leads. Those are opportunities to maybe turn them into a lead. It's interesting that as a vertical, we're the only vertical out there that accepts that a first name, last name, and a VIN is a lead, when every other vertical goes, well, that's not even qualified. That's an inquiry. Someone's inquiring about your product or solution. You haven't actually had a conversation to determine if they're a lead. And I do say, I'm glad you bring up the leads things, because I have seen this in some of the smart operators out there. And you know who you are because you're probably watching the show right now. I mean, me and Jade are up here, so they're watching, right? Is that they're stopped counting how many leads they're getting, and they're really counting on how many conversations.
Opportunities to do business.
Exactly, right?
Opportunities
It's like, okay,
to do business.
who cares if I got
Swings
500
at
leads last
bat.
month, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm glad you bring this to it back, because I really do. Like, I mean, I know you all seen Moneyball, all right, but that's true. Like, we do really have to kind of Moneyball this, because to your point, you said it earlier, these much larger publicly traded, they do that, all right, from a corporation's perspective, right? It is, everything is tracked. All right. There's a data set behind every activity that goes out there. And I think if we don't start as just real operators, really start moneyballing our way, through our marketing, through our sales efforts, through our service efforts, through our F&I efforts, like, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen groups getting sold up and bought up on a very, very regular basis right now. And it's not like they were bad groups and they weren't bad stores. They just, they didn't have the right operations. They didn't have the right people. They didn't have the right process in place. And I want to get into this because we talked a little bit about before we started recording. We started the long tail trade, right? Yeah. Because too often we just look at everything as just such a 30, 60, 90 day period. And we're not looking at that bigger picture. Let's get into that because I know you got some cool thoughts.
Yeah, you bet. So I'll preface it with the amount of time we as an industry have spent teaching the consumer about one price selling. Yeah. We've gone to the consumer and we've said, we've taken away the hassle and haggle and negotiation and game playing that you always disliked about the car business. And so now we're giving you these vast data sets that show you of all of the vehicles in your consideration set and the distance in which you're willing to drive to buy. Of course, that's how you found us. You went to a marketplace. 48% of consumers are starting on a marketplace. 60+% are finishing on a marketplace. 8 out of 10 are touching a marketplace somewhere along the way. You have to be where the consumers are, but you have to have that database, really relevant conversation to guide them through the process. The consumer does not want to be sold anymore. They want somebody to partner with them, to educate them, to let them be in control. And it's a win-win because now deals are more profitable for the dealers who are embracing this consumer self-guided, self-controlled purchase journey. But to that point, we've taken the complexity and the mistrust out of the price of the car and we've just put it on the trade. So now the average consumer walks into a dealership with, depending on the study, 2.7, 3, some age groups, 7 to 9 trade-in offers in their hands with an average spread of $2,000.
Is that what the average spread is?
The average,
Wow.
the average variance in our most recent
Talk
study.
about making it confusing, right?
So yeah, we've just taken that complexity and put it right onto the trade. And so I hear dealers every day talking about they're losing deals. How, they brought us an offer from such and such down the street. They brought us an offer from one of the new former hybrid retailers, one of the used car superstores, and we just can't get there. We don't see how they're getting there. And so we have really dug in and started to look and understand this. And like you said, they are looking at what we are calling a long tail trade valuation model. And so they're looking at a trade and they're saying, okay, one trade gets me, depending on the price segment and the market segment and the type of inventory, anywhere from 2 to 6 additional highly profitable deals that are the long tail of that one trade. And so they have mastered the math formulas that now give their desk managers the ability to see that bigger picture and to say, gosh, and how many times, I say it again and again and again, people are tired of hearing me say it, but find the deal in every deal. Do not let a deal walk out the door because market share matters. Market share, I know you are. We both believe, and I hope we'll probably talk fixed ops in a minute, retaining that customer for life. But even separate from selling the car to retain the service and to make the back end profitability, we all know that. But starting to open our minds and look at this competitive model. And it starts with, it's as simple as dealers sit down, look at the last 6 months or 12 months of your data and start with every trade and look at how many transactions that leads to and the profitability on that tail. And it's not going to look the same for all dealers.
No.
And it's not going to look the same for all inventory price ranges. Like you need to do 2 or 3 different buckets, but really understand and then start to give the confidence and autonomy for your teams that are desking those deals to pull some of that, just a tiny fraction of it. Yeah. If you know that you're making an extra $287 on 4.3 additional deals for every deal that you take in trade, let them use 175 of each one of those next 4.3 and pull it ahead and put it on that car and then give them a pay plan that matches it. You say it all the time. Pay plans drive behaviors.
They 100% do.
So we've got to get to a point where everybody's starting to play on that even playing field that I talked about earlier. And so that's one of my big ones that I'm trying to educate the industry on now. Look at that long tail trade model and really understand how you do not let a deal walk out the door over a trade value.
Yes.
Because somebody is putting money in it because they know the money is going to be there.
It's funny. I love that process, and that's a great. And again, the whole point of this whole podcast is we got to process our way to profitability, right? But we need the people that are ultimately going to execute on that. So I was just kind of thinking about that. As a salesperson, are we training our team to handle those conversations when that person comes in with 4 or 5 different trade valuations from this and that and every other company?
I've not found one dealer yet.
I can think of any one off the top of my head.
Every conference, every event, every group that I speak to, raise your hand if you know exactly how every consumer-facing person in your organization would answer the question of, well, they just offered me $1,250 more than you did.
See,
Nobody raises their hand. They have nobody's training. And a lot of times with the right data, you can absolutely talk through it. Well, let's look at the car you're looking at there. They've had it this long. It's the exact same mileage. It's the exact same. It's priced this much more. Like the data works. And when you look at those operators that are consistently now able to put 5, 7, 10% more into trades, it's because they're charging 5, 10, 12% more for the same car because the consumer's getting the experience. And when they're sitting there looking at those last 2 or 3 cars that they've narrowed it down to, and they're thinking apples to apples, and the only difference they see is $1,500 more for their trade.
Sure.
Well, of course, it feels like it makes sense. And so again, this is data-based education to arm our consumers and our sales teams with the tools that they need, the data they need, the resources they need, the confidence they need to do it with us and to capture that deal.
Well, it's that. So I love this because for a lot of people that are watching and listening, I know, and I did it too, my processes that I created, a lot of it had to do on gut feeling, like, all right, I feel like this is going to get me to a better result. So I'm going to create the process and then hopefully able to measure that process. But see, I had to create the process to then measure it, then to change and modify. What Jade is talking about here is actually starting from the very beginning, using data to determine the process.
Yes.
And so that changes,
And then-
right?
that's
So
right.
instead of having to modify and optimize after, because that for most part that's what we've had to do, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
now
And
you're
going to
doing it
optimize.
before.
Of course, you're going to optimize
yes.
forever. But you can start right now.
Yes.
And maybe you don't start at all of your stores. Maybe you don't even start with all of your inventory. Maybe you do it one day a week. Maybe you do it on Saturday and you actually see how many more deals you get. How does that impact your market share and your profitability?
Yes.
The two things that matter: market share, return on investment, and profitability. And even if your marketing is fantastic, if you're losing the deal over a trade value,
There you go.
you think you're not getting ROI
And I
on
think
your
that's-
marketing.
and
what
that's where
you're-
we have to be able
that's
to
right.
find
What you're
that.
actually doing is your processes are not competitive in
100%.
today's playing field, today's game, and you're losing and then your decision making for the wrong reasons because the problem isn't the thing you thought was the problem.
See, I love this, guys. I mean, this is why I love talking to Jay. This is so much fun, right? So, I mean, think about this. It's not enough that we just kind of create the process. It's the data that's driving the development of that process, which is key. And I think for anybody out there watching and listening right now, I mean, you guys can easily do this. And it can be just something as simple as like, okay, this is the way we're answering the phone. So you have a defined process, I'm sure, how you answer the phones. Well, what data are you using to know that's ultimately helping to the result? All right. This is how we respond to those trade-in multiple valuations. Like, okay, well, cool. How are you recording that conversation? How are you looking back on that? Is there a tool? That's what I'm saying. There's some great technologies out there that are helping, us, look at those processes and create data sets behind them so we can continue to move forward. And that's just ultimately to eventually get into the most important part of our business, is the service department, the fixed ops,
Yes.
right? I mean, this guys, come on, we know this is where we're making our money, right? I mean, I don't think anything's changed since I started, right? We move metal so we can service metal. I think some operators don't know that element, which surprises me sometimes. I am always kind of a little bummed out to find out, so many key leaders have never come or worked in the fixed op space, only on the variable side. Yeah. And you can normally tell that real quick.
You can.
It doesn't take much.
Like,
so let's get into the service.
It's like a pump
drive.
in, pump out report that manufacturers aren't sending anymore. Like these absorption rates, nobody's looking at some of these key metrics that were so important to dealership profitability in our dealership days.
I remember, so I had a great mentor that is a funny story. I'm sure I've
Look
shared
to
it.
book.
So,
How many do we have that are in the same category?
Yeah. I had a great mentor tell me, when I first bought my first dealership, was, hey, look, Jason, all you need to do is sell 5,000 cars. I hope I sell a lot more over the course of my ownership, more than 5,000 cars. He goes, no. You create those loyal customers that will turn into 10, 15, 20, 25,000 cars sold over the time that you own that dealership. And
long tail model.
it was a long tail model. Now he had a very simplified way of doing it, kind of a, do right by the customer, right?
Yes.
But and I'm not saying that thesis hasn't changed. Just we now have to look at the data to help support that. So let's get into one of those key elements, which is that service drive, because not only do I think the loyalty is made and broken on the variable side, but it's definitely consistently made and broken on that service drive. And I know you got some thoughts on it.
Yeah. So I love fixed ops, any service, repair, maintenance, recall, warranty, parts, accessories, aftermarket, after point of sale, F&I, product sales. I mean, there's so many revenue streams that exist for a dealership, and it's so important. Most of the data says it's 50 to 56% of a dealership's profitability. It's maybe 10% of their budget, maybe. And
Always blows my mind, but yes.
and like 2 to 5% of their focus when they are decision making and thinking about areas to optimize and invest and grow. This is also an area where we should be measuring market share. Are
100%.
are we winning or losing on brand, off brand? And I just it's so critical for every part of the dealership's profitability and success. Number one place where you can drive down consumer acquisition cost for variable ops for selling cars. Number one place where you can acquire really awesome vehicles, trades, whether they buy or
100%.
I
would buy my own vehicle way before I bought anything else.
It is. It's a gold mine that dealers, even the ones that think they have service drive processes, maybe they have a process for my sales team is held accountable by their desk manager daily to go back and shake hands with every one of their past customers that is in today for service. Sure. Well, that is a process, but is your service advisor making sure that they have a Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer at their point of sale? Is the salesperson coming up? Is the salesperson or somebody on the front end involved in any RO that comes back that's over a certain dollar amount to just make sure that consumer has options between trading versus servicing? There are so many places in the service drive that should tie directly in. And the biggest thing that I love about the service drive, we're going to go back exactly where we started, which is this is a people business.
Yes.
Now, because so many steps of the purchase journey across every age segment are happening online, and as people are likely going to be holding vehicles longer because of what's happened with
we've already been to see that. I think it's
equity
2 years longer now.
Yeah, it's just we're in a different environment, different macroeconomic conditions that we have been in. But your service drive is such higher touch point where your dealer has any of those dealership staff that are consumer facing have the opportunity to interact directly, personally, to set expectations that they can meet or exceed, to give an experience that feels white glove and unique and special, to share the energy and the culture and the goodness of your dealership and the reasons why people want to do business with you and want to send repeat and referral business to you. That your service drive is where that happens. You now set the entire dynamic of your repeat and referral base in your own backyard right from your service drive if you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right.
Or you're killing it.
Well, or
one or the other.
That's true. Or you're destroying it. Look, I realized this really quick as a young salesperson, and I actually got in trouble for hanging out in the service department too long, because I would sit there and I'd watch, and, I could probably talk to 4 or 5 customers a day. Yeah. I watch hundreds of people walking in and out of that service department. Yes. So, I went out on my way to go get coffee in the service lounge and not get coffee over next to the sales desk. I spent a lot of time over there. I remember when they gave me, it's so funny, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, if you happen to be a salesperson, you're watching this, you get into a new dealership, they give you this list of orphan, owners,
orphan owners,
right?
Yeah.
And man, I would keep my eye out. If anybody was on that list and was in the drive, to your point, I would go run some quick numbers on it and just introduce myself and say, hey, this is where your vehicle, just to let them know where the valuation is, just to want to let you know, not like you need to do anything. At this point, I think you're fine. Maybe next time you come in for service, we'll have that conversation. But just, I got in trouble for it. It's so funny that I got in trouble for that.
Well, you wouldn't in today's world, I sure hope.
Right.
But even something as simple as, hands on the wheel seals the deal. If you're at a Hyundai dealership, every Sonata person that comes in and has their Sonata serviced, I don't care if it's 2 years old, 5 years old, 14 years old, are they sitting in a new Sonata for a $10 gift card while they're 100%. Waiting in service? Are you like, those are the kinds of things, they seem so small and so simple, but you've got people sitting there, just sitting there, while you've got salespeople, hopefully not twiddling their thumbs, but doing something else on the front end, trying to figure out where they're going to get the next warm body to potentially have a conversation with from all these leads that are closing at, depending on the lead source. They're so focused there that they're missing what's right in front of their face. Real people right now in their service drive with, in a lot of cases, that have no idea the difference in cars and technology and what their payment might be. Just educating and putting a deal in front of every person who comes through there is a huge opportunity.
It is. I mean, so you get a kick out of this. As young Jason as a salesperson, lunch came around. Always a big deal at a dealership, right? Big deal at a dealership. Yeah. So, like, you go up, stomp upstairs, and you sit down at lunch, and you just pretty much listen to all the other sales or management team complain about something or another. And I'm like, this seems to be a total waste of my time. I'd go over to the service drive and ask if anybody wanted to come out and have lunch with me.
Yes.
You'd be amazed how many people, I'm not always, but you'd be amazed how many people will go, well, I'm here for an hour and a half. I said, I'm going down the road for a burger. You want to come?
Come hop in this.
By the way, I'm taking the brand new.
You're not going to believe this technology package. This screen is going to blow your mind. You won't believe how quiet it is. Have you been in a hybrid?
That's right. That's right. I actually got to the point where my dealership realized what I was doing. And that specific dealership when I was working there actually allowed me to pay for the customer's lunch. They actually started doing, hey, Jay, I actually think this is pretty cool. You're doing this. I'd love to see more people do it. We'll go ahead and cover that $10 every time you take someone out for lunch. I was like, okay, that's great. I want to go back to something real quick because, I love finding rabbit holes. You mentioned market share in the fixed ops department, which incredibly important variable and it's just not talked enough about, I think, in the service side. I think too often we think of service and we're thinking about, like, I'm a Nissan dealership, so there's another Nissan dealership on. No, that's not the case. Like, I think the number I recently saw was like for every franchise dealership out there are 16 non-franchise entities in your market that is fighting for that oil job. And this could be a Walmart, a Jiffy Lube, a Mr. Lube, a Midas, a Joe's Auto Shop. Just there's and the data that I think we're getting from the OEMs is not. They're so focused on retention. Yeah. Retention actually is not market share. It's just like, okay, within the time of warranty, that customer came back. I saw a stat recently and it blew my mind. It didn't necessarily surprise me, but we're up to, in some dealerships, up to 60% of the customers leaving the service department once the warranty expires.
Yes.
We're hemorrhaging business over there. Yeah. But my retention report says I'm doing well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Anyways, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
No, I agree 100%. And I think the total addressable market is so much bigger now in that space than what it was in our car days. Because in our car days, everybody was pretty much buying a car within 25 to 35 miles of where they live. Well, now, such a large percentage of consumers are buying from outside of market. The average, purchase distance is 65 miles right now. For e-commerce, it's over 100 miles. Cool. And so now you have these people, they don't have any dealership loyalty for who they're going to service with. And you take the flip side of that number, 60% plus defection after warranty expires that you quoted. And you say, okay, if I went out and got another 100 people to do oil changes with me weekly or monthly, could actually sell 60% of those a car when the time is right for them, because it's high touch point. They get to know me. They like me. They feel that culture. They feel that energy, all the things that we went through earlier. But the total addressable market on the fixed op side is so big for so many reasons. And it is just an area where we have got to continue to push the industry and the business to lean into that space. And there is also a lot of data out there that very few dealers are using when it comes to consumers wanting to do fair repair pricing research. And most people don't, the same way we have the Kelley Blue Book fair market range fan on how much your car is worth, we have the same thing on on fair repair pricing for just about every service. And consumers are starting to seek that kind of data out. They want that same data transparency, but most of them think that franchise affiliated stores are vastly more expensive than the independents.
They're not.
And they're
actually
not.
cheaper.
That's right. In
They're
most
actually cheaper. I
cases,
think most
they
some
are
of the
less
studies I've seen, yeah.
expensive in today's environment.
Yeah.
And that's a message that dealers should be putting out there
totally
to get
agree.
people into their service department and attach them to them for life.
Well, you're right. And we have so many opportunities. Like, see, this is why I love talking to Jade. I know we can go forever. And that is, you're so right. There's a monster opportunity there. Yeah. The other one is just recalls. Because look, Joe's Auto Shop and Jiffy Lube and Midas cannot have those conversations by law because you're a franchise dealer. Yeah. It doesn't matter if they've done service with you or bought the car from you. If they're in your market and you're a Hyundai dealer and they're driving a Hyundai and there's an open recall, you can 100% reach out to them and have a conversation about that specific thing.
But
that's a big
why
plus for
aren't
us.
we doing it?
I
So
know.
I ask this especially immediately post-pandemic when people were trying to figure out how to get their oil, what they were going to do. But the number one reason, technician shortage. We can't find technicians. We can't staff. We don't have enough service bays. They are out there, or they are willing to be trained. It comes back to finding the right people, setting a career path for them, make it a career, show them the long term, but start them in your reconditioning department and daggum, pay them well. Then teach them to be oil techs. Then teach them the next thing. Then let them shadow a master tech. Then let them, we have got to change this ourselves as an industry. It's the only way we're going to get there. But I tell you, the organizations that have taken the leap and opened up a third shift for oil changes have gone out on a limb on some of these really creative processes related to service drive, Kelley Blue Book instant cash offers on everybody who walks through there, making it a part of the process when they check in, when they're reviewing their RO with the service advisor. They're killing it. And everybody could kill it. These aren't complex things. It's just, you got to take the leap and do it.
You got to take the leap and do it. You got to commit the time to it. Yep. And the whole point of this podcast, it is the people and those processes. And when they're aligned, some amazing things happen. Look, I know as we're getting towards the tail end of our time, and I feel like I could record a lot longer with you, Jade. Yeah. But hey, before I let you go, for everybody out there watching and listening right now who would love to connect with you, learn some more, maybe listen to some of the podcasts that you've done, where's the best place to do that?
So of course you can find me on LinkedIn, Jade Terreberry, or you can visit me at b2b.autotrader.com/fortheroadforward, which is where you will be one of the first to see all of our Cox Automotive consumer studies that come out. You can see all of the great bonus content and all of our For the Road Forward podcast episodes, of which Jason has been a previous guest and will be a future guest here very short ordered, because this has been a great conversation, and I thought of 10 other topics that I would love to discuss. I was thinking the same
thing. I was like, you got to do more of this.
You bet.
Well, hey, for everybody out there watching and listening, we really appreciate you. Hey, look, one of the biggest compliments that you can give us as content creators is to share the show. It means a lot to us. If you have a manager or a colleague that needs to see some part of today's conversation, it means so much to us when you share the show. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys have an amazing day.
Thanks for tuning in to Shift into Profit, the podcast where we break down the people, processes, and technology that turn dealerships into profit machines. If today's conversation helped you, share the show and help another operator win. And we'll see you in the next episode.